But Michael is a very important part of our organization. But in this regard, we welcome him as the branch chairperson of this ward, and also as our national chairperson and co-founder of our movement, the Green Machine ActionSA. Please welcome Mr. Michael Beaumont. And then if you know Beyonce's song, I'm a survivor, I'm not gonna give up, I'm not gonna stop, I'm gonna work harder. You have Funzi Ngobeni. Mr. Funzi Ngobeni is our provincial chairperson. He's also the premier candidate of ActionSA in this beautiful province of Gauteng. Mr. Funzi Ngobeni is formidable, unstoppable, committed. I thought that he would take a rest after what he's been through overnight, almost having some of us have heart attacks while we were scared, waiting for him to return home. And he did return home, and we're so grateful to God, the ancestors, and all the spirits that were with him and our colleague Hlupi Khafani last night as they were abducted and hijacked in this country, and they returned safely. We were praying for hours and hours yesterday to have them return safely. I'm so inspired to see him back on his feet, literally overnight, is here, was working this morning as opposed to taking it easy and taking a break, and now he's here again this evening. That is really, truly commendable, and that is the caliber of person who's going to take the premiership of this province. Please welcome Mr. Funzi Ngobeni. All right, so without much further ado, let me ask Mr. Michael Beaumont to come up as the branch chairperson of this ward to give his remarks. Thank you.
All right, good evening, everyone. It's lovely to have you here, and I'm very pleased to host the leadership of our party in our humble branch here in Parkhurst. It is an interesting branch, and before I get into my remarks, let me say, it is a branch where ActionSA scored one of the highest percentages of any ward in Johannesburg in the 2021 elections, getting 25% of the vote in this community. And what we've seen since that time is more growth and an exciting branch that has come together. And I'm sure every one of you must have been bombarded with leaflet distributions and phone calls and SMSs from a very enthusiastic team that made today happen. Many of them are here, and just to say thank you very much to my team for making this event a success today. Thank you very much. For those of you who I haven't had the pleasure to meet, my name is Michael Beaumont. I'm the national chairperson of ActionSA. I am the co-founder of the party alongside Herman Mashaba all those years ago. It just feels like a long time, but in fact just 3 years ago. And I often remind people that ActionSA is a very humble beginning. We had to launch in a live studio broadcast in a hard COVID-19 lockdown where you couldn't have more than 15 people in one place. And now I stand before a political party that is rooted in 9 provinces, 52 districts, 8 metros, and over 60% of the wards of South Africa. And that is the growth that has just been so incredible in the story behind ActionSA. So ActionSA contested the 2020 local government elections, and it's not a story that is told enough because I'm afraid we deal with polling which is highly questionable in our country, and that frames the debate. But ActionSA contested in 2021 in only 6 municipalities out of 278. And despite that, we became the 6th largest party in South Africa. You clap for me, but I clap for you, because it's the voters that made that possible, not us. But we are now contesting in all 9 provinces. And that is a really significant feat, because what ActionSA achieved in 2021 was to create the diverse center of South African politics that every other political party had abandoned. And you're not going to hear me badmouth other political parties here tonight. That's not our game. We're here to talk about Action SA. But I think certainly there's a lot of voters in the center of South African politics who feel abandoned because people who used to represent them have moved to the right or the left, and there's no one in the middle. And that's the only reason you can have a situation in a country with the problems we have, and yet the majority of people are not voting because they feel like they've been left behind. And that was the mission for Action SA. And as I said, we've now expanded to operate in all 9 provinces, and we have incredible leadership that has been put in place by people like Athol Trollip in the Eastern Cape, Zwakele Mwango in KZN, General Kwena Mangope in the Northwest, and the list goes on. And effectively, for 2.5 years, we have built Action SA wall to wall, community to community. And the reason why that matters is, contrary to popular belief, elections are not won on social media. They're not even won on TV media. They are won on the ground, on the doorsteps, and on the street corners across South Africa. And that is the work that we've been putting in. And that is why when the polls are putting us at whatever percent, we just laugh. Because the only polls that matter in this election are the one we put our posters on. Those are the polls that matter. And would like to talk to you a little bit about the city in which you live, because we could talk national and provincial, as my colleagues will in a moment. But let's not kid ourselves, we live in a broken city. And the problems you have in this community and in the communities around this one are problems of our city of Johannesburg, which has become nothing short of a disaster. I think we can all agree that between 2016 and 2019 was the only time that Johannesburg actually moved forward. And that was because the gentleman over there was the mayor of Johannesburg. And his deputy, Funzi Ngobeni, was the one who was making things happen. But since 2021, Action SA was 16% of the vote in Johannesburg. We're the 3rd largest party. We eclipsed even the EFF. The EFF are now the 4th largest party, courtesy of Action SA. And we did that because we united voters. We won 22% of the vote in Soweto and 21% of the vote in Sandton. 25% here, if you will. And that's because we're bringing people together. And that matters because that's how we grow. But in Johannesburg, despite the numbers being available, we've had a difficult time in local government coalition. You will know exactly what I'm talking about. The resident experience of coalition in local government in this province has been nothing short of a disaster. And I think one of the most frustrating things is that the conversation of coalition is about what political parties want and what they will do. And there's no discussion or concern about what you, the residents of these communities, want and what you need us to do. To give you an example, right now, you are governed by a coalition led by the ANC and EFF. Some people call it the doomsday scenario. But those same people have the ability to work with us to remove the ANC and EFF. And yes, that requires us to work with political parties that have let us down before. And let me be the first to say, the Patriotic Alliance has let us down in Johannesburg. No one is here to defend their legacy in terms of how they treat coalitions like an auction. But at the end of the day, is it better for the residents of Johannesburg that we have the Patriotic Alliance in partnership with the ANC and EFF? Or is it better that they're in partnership with a group of parties that want to fix and change Johannesburg? But the voice of Johannesburg residents has been locked out of that conversation. And right now, the numbers exist to take back our city. Action SA has said to our coalition partners, we will support you. You can support us. We'll support one of our other partners. We don't mind who's in charge. Let's just take back Johannesburg. Because ultimately, the problems in this community, the electricity outages that we live with from our old substations, and I live 3 streets down, so I promise you I know what I'm talking about. The water outages when the reservoirs run dry. The streets of Parkhurst, which are starting to resemble much more of a farmland than actually a serious community. These are issues that are dealt with at a municipal government level. And we do what we can. We're not the ward councillors here, but you may know that there's that giant hole opposite the Craig Hall Veterinary Clinic. We are getting JRA to come and reinstate that. That will be fixed by the end of this week. We aren't the ward councillors, but we will do it anyway because the people who are supposed to do it aren't getting the job done. And we will work with this community however we can, because this is a long-term partnership to make our community stronger. I also want to talk to you a little bit about this thing called the Multi-Party Charter for South Africa. You will have heard about this. It is the first time, it is a pre-election agreement signed by 8 or 9 political parties to say we will work together after this election. And it's an historic occasion. I'm not going to say anything bad about the Multi-Party Charter. It is a good thing. And you know why it's a good thing? This election is a referendum on change. People who want change must come together and work together, even if they have issues, for the benefit of communities. And those who want to work with the ANC, they must accept that they are representing a continuation of the status quo, not change. If people coalesce with the ANC, we're going to get more of the same, perhaps even faster. And that is why we will work with other political parties, even if we dislike them. Because in politics, it's no different to everything else. You in your personal lives have to work with neighbors, people in your churches, people in your residents' associations, people in your businesses that you may not like, but you have to work with them for the good of your community. It's no different in politics. We have to do the same. And we are committed to this multi-party charter. We have been campaigning alongside these other parties and presenting the solutions that we jointly hold for South Africa. And we are confident that in a province like Gauteng, certainly in KZN, the ANC is gone. If you don't believe me, the ANC in this province in 2021 fell to 35%. As Funzi Ngobeni, our premier candidate, keeps reminding Panyaza Lesufi, please don't unpack your office, because you're going to be leaving soon. But I will say this, I said I wasn't going to badmouth any party, but I will represent ActionSA's views. We have become increasingly concerned about the number of political parties in South Africa that are open to the idea of coalition with the ANC. Some of them even within the ranks of the multi-party charter. And we must say that, we must be clear about it. And I can be clear about it because we signed an agreement that said no political party in the multi-party charter will entertain a working relationship with the ANC. In fact, it was the condition that ActionSA put on our talks to say we will not enter this thing unless you put that in writing. And we don't do it because we hate the ANC. We hate what their leaders have done to South Africa. And that is why I said we will not badmouth other parties. We'll talk about ActionSA, and I'm going to talk about ActionSA when I say to you now that ActionSA gives you the commitment carved in stone that no vote for ActionSA will ever go to keep the ANC in government at any level in South Africa. And that is because you cannot fix the problem in partnership with the problem. As I wrap up, let me say this. We approach this election on the 29th of May, and ActionSA is excited. We have momentum at our back. We are growing. We like being underestimated. They underestimated us in 2021. They told us we're going to get 3 seats in Johannesburg. We have 44 seats in Johannesburg. So we're very happy to be underestimated, and we're very happy to shock people in 2024, just like we did in 2021. Because South Africans want a party that is bringing them together and not tearing them apart. And then I think as my final departing words to you, let me introduce the next speaker, because I must remember I'm actually just the branch chair here tonight. But the next speaker is our premier candidate for Gauteng. His name is Funzi Ngobeni. Funzi Ngobeni was a councillor in Johannesburg for many years. He has been an MMC of transport, so he knows about the roads of Johannesburg. He's been an MMC of finance. He understands the budget of our city. He has been an MMC of development planning. He understands the built environment. He was Herman's deputy that helped to run a very difficult coalition. And what nobody will understand is that the person who leads a government must have the right temperament. You've got to be able to work with other people. You can't be arrogant. You can't bulldoze other people's opinions. And that is why we put up new posters today that you see behind me saying, let action lead. Because we've seen coalitions that have been led by yellow, and we've seen coalitions that have been led by blue. And we think it's time the people of Gauteng are given a third option. And that's coalitions led by green. And if you have any doubts whatsoever about the character and integrity of the next speaker, let me offer you the following idea. Last night, this man was hijacked at gunpoint. He was driven around for hours. His life was in real threat. He didn't stay away. He didn't say, I'm throwing in the towel. He wouldn't have done the things that most people would do, and understandably so. He got up this morning, he came to events, and he said to the South African people, crime doesn't just affect me, it affects you. We all deal with this, and I'm more determined than ever to make our province the safest place. You could not ask for a better premier candidate.
Thank you very much, Michael. Thank you very much, fellow South Africans who are here this evening with us. It's so difficult to follow on the footstep of the national chairperson and the branch chairperson. But I'm grateful that I'm here this evening. I'm truly grateful that I'm here this evening. I'm also immensely encouraged by all of you sacrificing your time this evening, sacrificing your convenience, sacrificing your comfort of your homes to come and engage in events like this one this evening. You know, this to me, it shows a deep care and a demonstration of high regard for the future of our country, for your future of your neighborhood, for the future of your city. It actually shows a high demonstration of regard for your homeland, South Africa, the country that we all love. For those of you that you may not know me, I think Michael has done an introduction. Yes, I'm Mfunzi Ngobeni. I'm ActionSA Premier Candidate. And colleagues here in Parktown, I can tell you that we do have a plan to fix Gauteng. And our plan has many parts, but because we have agreed that and we have been provided only with 10 minutes to address you, I will touch on only 2 of the plans that we have. I'll touch on our infrastructure, and we've got a roadmap towards really restoring our infrastructure here in Gauteng. I'll also touch on the rule of law, because we have to restore the rule of law here in our province. At the core of our plan to fix the province, we have put together this infrastructure roadmap. It is called an ActionSA-led government plan to repair, to restore and to renew our aging public infrastructure. Michael has already spoken about the infrastructure decay that is affecting Parkhurst, but that is affecting the city of Johannesburg. But I can tell you across the province, you will find similar infrastructure that has been left to disrepair and have aged without being maintained. We think that with this plan, we'll be able to reignite business confidence, and encourage new investment in Gauteng. A large part of the deterioration of this infrastructure that we see in our public environment is as a result of government basically failing to maintain our infrastructure. This includes our provincial roads, our water and sanitation infrastructure, you can name them. Your power and supply networks, even our railway infrastructure has decayed in the province and across the country Michael was doing a tour a few weeks ago, Michael, where you highlighted some of this infrastructure that is really being left to ruin. So we are saying as ActionSA, from day one, our focus will be to invest on this grand scale on maintaining infrastructure and expanding the roads network, your transport and logistic infrastructure, which, by the way, plays a crucial role in the economic life of Gauteng as a province. So we will be putting a lot of effort and a lot of investment into ensuring that infrastructure is brought back to life, and we are able to get the private sector to come and enjoy to invest in our province. So as part of rebuilding our transport system, we'll invest in restoring, as I said, our rail infrastructure. This is important because it will assist us in reducing the unsustainable levels of traffic, particularly within the economic centers. We have seen even a lot of trucks creating accidents in our roads here in the province because the rail infrastructure and even the transport system itself is not working. So we are of the view that a safe and efficient railway system will be a good investment that will assist us if we want to get our mobility right, if we want to reduce the cost associated with moving around of products and people. So our idea is that we're going to have to work with municipalities because most of this infrastructure resides within municipalities. So it will be important for us to invest in ensuring that, for example, the water supply infrastructure in Gauteng, in Johannesburg, in Tshwane, in Ekurhuleni, as a province, we must insist that municipalities maintain that infrastructure. As a province, we have a constitutional obligation to hold municipalities accountable if they fail to invest in maintenance of their infrastructure. We have seen municipalities spending less than 2% of their GDP, of their revenue in maintaining infrastructure, when actually National Treasury gives them a threshold of 5% to 6% of their budget that they must spend on maintaining infrastructure. We lose a lot of water in the municipal networks due to leaks and slow turn around repairing this infrastructure. The best pipes, the last time I read, the city of Johannesburg is losing close to about 43% to 45% of their water because of best leaks and not being able to maintain their infrastructure. These are bread and butter issues that municipalities must be focusing on, and there's no other issues that they really have to be putting their minds on, like corruption and other things that they are doing in our municipalities. This failure has led to many water outages across many communities in the province over the years. The root cause, as I said, is lack of maintenance. Further to this, we noted that across our regions, we have old industrial areas that have been laying dormant and they have been allowed to dilapidate. We are of the view that we need to reclaim all these buildings, these factories that have been left to be dormant, and give them to the private sector to come and renovate them so that we can be able to hire local people into those firms that will come with the investment that will come from the private sector. The other issue I mentioned earlier on is restoring the rule of law. And Lerato has touched on the ordeal that we suffered yesterday. But I've said that indeed this is the daily experience of South Africans. The fact that it has affected me today, it doesn't mean that it doesn't happen to South Africans across the lines. I've said we appreciate that the police, particularly the provincial police, have come and they are showing interest in investigating our case. But we are very clear that that should not be because it's Funzingobeni. That should not be because it's a high-ranking politician or a high-level artist. It should be to all South Africans who are affected by crime. We must see the same efficiency, the same turnaround from our police, because that's what they are paid to do. So I'm grateful that my life was spared and the life of my colleague Hlupi was spared last night. But that experience has given me even more reason to push more. We'll fight this fight, and we'll fix South Africa. It's our view, colleagues, that to restore law and order in the province will need a coordinated effort. The South African Police Service, as you know, they report to National Department of Police. As the province, our constitutional obligation only resides with oversight. But we have our local police, your metro police. In all the 3 metros, we have patrollers in every communities. We have private firms that are working for us day and night. We need a coordinated effort of all those law enforcement agencies. We now have what we call the crime wardens, also known as amapanyaza. It's our view that we need more police. That's correct. But it's also our view that it's not our constitutional obligation as the province to have the police at that level. What has been done is illegal. Even the training of these crime wardens is not adequate. They are a danger to themselves and they are a danger to us as well. So as ActionSA, we are going to take them back to training. And once they are trained, we're going to send them to municipalities to go and work with our patrollers, with the private security firms, to go and work with the community-based organizations that are fighting crime at every local municipality. That is where we think they are going to be efficient and they will be able to do the work once we have trained them. And once we have trained them, we'll be able to send them there. So in a nutshell, we are committing that we are going to work side by side with the SAPS, with communities, to ensure that we restore the rule of law here in Gauteng. We know that at a national level, Mr. Mashaba and his team will assist us to reform the SAPS, to give them more teeth, to give them more competent leaders that with integrity, that will be able to lead them from the top, and with that culture, it will then start following up until to the lowest level of the ranks. So with that, we also know that the President and his team will work very hard to turn around the National Prosecuting Authority. They will work to turn around even, ensuring that we get only the best people that can be able to fight crime with us at that level. With that said, ladies and gentlemen, I thank you very much for your cooperation this afternoon and for listening to us. And I hope we're going to have also a very fruitful engagement before we leave here today. Thank you so much, and thank you for your prayers as well. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Funzi. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to go straight into introducing our key speaker tonight. Many of you clapped earlier when I spoke about him being the mayor that moved Johannesburg forward, and you weren't wrong. But I want to remind you why you clapped, in case this has kind of disappeared into your memory with the failures of one government after another ever since. But under Herman Mashaba, a former Scorpion was appointed to investigate corruption. That investigated over 6,000 cases of corruption, totaling more than 35 billion rand. 700 people were arrested. When last did you see someone getting arrested for corruption? Me neither. The JMPD was expanded by 50% overnight, and suddenly there was a policing presence in the streets of Johannesburg. Electricity outages went down because the old substations were being refurbished to stop breaking down. The water pipes and bursts started to decrease because 200 kilometers of water pipes were replaced in a country which is a water-scarce country. The roads, 900 kilometers of roads were resurfaced across Johannesburg. And you know in this community how bad our roads are, you know what I'm talking about. These are the things that Herman Mashaba did, and the reason why it worked is he walked in there and said, this city cannot spend the money it does on nonsense. It must be redirected to the priorities of government. And within 1 year, 2 billion rand that was previously spent on catering, I'm not joking, international travel, conferencing, consultants, 20 million rand a year on DSTV. 20 million. These things were added up and they were redirected to roads, water, electricity, and housing. And why? Herman Mashaba didn't come in to be a politician. Herman Mashaba was a successful businessman. I'm sure he'd like to say he still is, but he's been in politics a while. And he brings that to politics. And I think there's too many people that have gotten rich in politics, and not enough people who've succeeded at something and brought that into politics to deliver change. And that is why we celebrate him as our presidential candidate, Herman Mashaba.
Thank you, Michael. Thank you, colleagues. Starting with the premier candidate, Funzi Ngobeni, who last night this time, he was in very dangerous situation. We're glad to have him back. It's actually quite interesting. 4 of the colleagues on table here with me, including Michael, they're part of a brave move that I announced a few months ago. I wanted something historic for my country because there's a serious trust deficit between politicians and civil society. And this trust deficit is real. It's not something that anyone can ignore. The last 30 years of our democratic dispensation has not really been a good experience for civil society to have confidence in our democratic dispensation. So it's not something that we can take for granted. And I felt ahead of our elections to take South Africans into confidence in the event you give us the mandate to be your government, to say, here is your cabinet, ahead of time, so that I don't really take you by surprise. Put someone like Derlin to saying, we are facing a major challenge of drugs and alcohol abuse, substance abuse in this country. It needs to be addressed, and it needs to be addressed head on, because what it does with these drugs, they don't just really destroy our youth, they destroy our families and they destroy our way of life. So it's something that we need to face head on. And I don't really believe there's any better qualified South African than Derlin to play that role, to arrest this evil. And when it came to health, I remember to one a friend of mine, our premier candidate for Northwest, Gwen and Mangope, and I, one day with our families, we were having dinner and spoke about Dr. Letlape, someone I've known for over 40 years. And I said, will someone like Dr. Letlape consider actually joining this muddy territory called politics. And I thought, Herman, you're really pushing your luck here. You know what? One thing I've learned in life, really trained, it's in my DNA, is to take risks. And I said, Dr. Letlape can only say no. Here is it. Dr. Letlape has accepted to play that role. He was just saying to me as we were coming in, he's got his last international commitment and coming back before the elections, we've got to face this issue of life as a demeanor head on. We've got to really expose it to South Africans because we've got to make and avoid South Africans making the mistake they've made over the last 30 years. Trusting people who right now, as you're aware, they've unleashed people who've destroyed this country to really go around our communities to ask them to vote again for the ANC. And Lerato, who's our national spokesperson, to take over the responsibility for Home Affairs. You know, the issue of the porous borders is the biggest risk this country is facing. Biggest risk this country is facing. Fellow South Africans, if we're going to ignore this or you allow yourselves to be silenced and not confront this evil, our children and our grandchildren will pay a heavy price because we will allow international terrorist organizations to take over this country. And it's not going to happen. It is not going to happen under my watch, being aware about it. And I'm not going to say to my children, I saw it coming and I did nothing. I'd rather fail after having tried. Because this is one big danger that this country is facing. So Lerato is handling this particular matter on Home Affairs. And Michael, as a branch chairperson, as national chairperson, is obviously team member for infrastructure. Just to really tell you the role that Michael has to really play. Just come here, 2 blocks away from here. Are you aware you're losing millions of liters of water right now? This is one of the biggest water pipes I've ever come across. It's right now as I'm talking to you. I'm not telling you something that happened when I was the mayor. Right now as I'm talking to you, you're losing millions of water. I wondered, by the time you get home, you might not have water. You might not have water. And these are things, why did they happen? They did not happen because we are an unfortunate country or nation. No. These things are happening because we have actually failed to maintain and upgrade our infrastructure to cater for the growing population. Growing population that's actually growing faster than our economic growth. Where on earth can you ever think that you can really progress? Our GDP growth as a country, slower than our population growth. And over and above that, we've got our borders open. We said no. Some political parties have said South Africa should not really have borders. Borders are an European phenomenon. What nonsense is this? South Africa is a sovereign country. If we're not a sovereign country, we would not really have the constitution. Then what's the point of us having a constitution? And we are told by people representing us in parliament and say, no, people must find creative ways to come into our country. People must find creative ways to come into our country. What kind of nation are we? So these are things that, for me, really makes me more resolute and determined to really do this difficult job that I hate. Because it's a necessary job. It is more than necessary, not just really necessary, more than necessary. And I think, remember when Michael invited me to to this particular meeting. I accepted it because I really felt this is an opportunity to say thank you to the people of Parkhurst. Thank you, and I really mean it from the bottom of my heart. Why am I thanking you? ActionSA was launched on the 29th of August 2020, right in the middle of COVID. Right in the middle of COVID. A year later, we contested our first local government elections. As Michael has indicated, we contested only 6 municipalities. And all the clever people and pollsters never saw us coming, including a crucial role played by the IEC. The IEC probably are the only people who actually saw us, and they decided to frustrate our efforts. We contested as a logo, but you, the people of Parkhurst, you saw our logo, and you voted for us. If you look at Johannesburg, imagine when the SA's will get 1%, then not get anything in Tshwane and Ekurhuleni. We got 16% of Johannesburg, but this particular ward, we got 23%. You actually even beat our best performance in Soweto, where we received 22%. And what makes me really so proud of our achievement and the possibility of why I got into politics, because we want to really create a non-racial South Africa, and we are uncompromising about this. We're the first political party in the history of this country to get electoral support across all communities. No political figure, including Nelson Mandela himself, never received the kind of electoral support across all communities. There's never happened. And something that we're proud, and thank you people of this community for making that happen. That is why when we serve, we are going to ensure that all South Africans are united behind one flag. All South Africans are united behind one nation. No one is going to divide us. We'll fight using every available weapon at our disposal to ensure that our children inherit a better South Africa than the one that you and I were born in and the one that you and I live in today. We have the responsibility, you and I, to create a better South Africa for future generations. Because in 1994, 27th of April 1994, when I voted for Nelson Mandela, when Desmond Tutu came out with an excellent phrase of talking about the Rainbow Nation, that dream cannot really be lost. That dream cannot just really be a dream. It's got to be a reality. And I believe very strongly that you and I have got that responsibility. We should not really give up on our country. We should not really give up on our country. This country is worth fighting for. It's really worth fighting for. Because where else are we going to go? And why should we even contemplate to live in this country? Let's rather fight for it. We live in a democratic dispensation. We are going to remove this government, and we are going to democratically and peacefully remove it, mobilizing South Africans. We are going to, if ever people thought we surprised them in 2021, wait until in 20 days' time, 21 days' time. Wait until you see what's going to happen in 21 days' time. We have to have Funzi Ngubeni 20 days after, 10 days after the 29th of, 14 days after the 29th. We need to go to, Funzi invite us to the inauguration of the first premier of Gauteng, a non-ANC one, and that's going to happen. This is not a pipe dream. This is real. This is real. We're going to make it happen. And it's not going to happen because we pray hard. Yes, we pray. We pray. But it's not going to happen because we pray. It's going to happen because we work hard and ask for God's blessings. And we know God is behind us on this mission to save our country. Once we take over Gauteng, once we take over Gauteng, now you can imagine the glue that got the ANC together for the last 30 years. That glue will be gone because the economic center of South Africa would not be under their hands. And we will start delivering not only for Gauteng. Gauteng will really be used as a blueprint for the entire country. But that can only happen if you and I go out on the 29th, vote and vote ActionSA. And we should not really shy away from this. Our vote cannot be a secret any longer when the country is burning. Our vote can't be a secret any longer. Why should we be afraid of democracy? You know, for some of us, I lived 34 years of my life under an evil system of apartheid and never scared of the apartheid government. Brutal system. Now, why should I be afraid of democracy? Why should I be afraid of democracy? My vote is not a secret. My vote is going to be used to liberate this country so that my grandchildren and your grandchildren can live in a better world. It is possible, fellow South Africans. And I think I don't have to really take you through our policies. Michael has only given me 10 minutes. And you can imagine if I've got to start unpacking our policies, it'll take us 3 days. And I don't think you've got the time for that. What I can urge you, and I believe you are here because you understand us. You are here because you are concerned about the direction this country is taking. You're not here because you don't have anything else to do in your homes. You are here because you want a political party that can save this country. And one thing I just want to really confirm to you and commit to you, that you see these people here and some of my colleagues in this room, we are committed to saving you. We want you to experience living in an ethical, accountable, democratic government. But at the end of the day, your vote should not really come for nothing. You've got to hold us accountable. Learn to hold us accountable. Don't wait for 30 years to decide on changing government. This Constitution of the Republic of South Africa allows you every 2.5 years to punish politicians or to reward them. So don't wait for 30 years. In the event ActionSA lets you down, 2026 is around the corner. And 2026, we really want to take over the city of Johannesburg, because right now, we've really been trying. We've been trying since the 2021 local government elections to run that city. We know it's in a mess, but we can't give up on it. Unfortunately, we do not have the necessary numbers to allow us to take over the city of Johannesburg and repair it. This city can be repaired. This city and this country, the potential of this country, it's massive. You and I, we don't have to live side by side with poverty. You and I can fix and uplift people. We can uplift others. It is possible. This country has got the potential, but it needs and it requires decisive leadership. Leadership that is not here for friendship. Leadership that is here to serve our country. Friendship will be a byproduct of the work that we do. We are not here to really make friends. We are here to serve this country and make it a better place for future generations. And in the process, friendship will develop or not develop. If it doesn't develop, it's okay. That means we were wrong friends. I value friendship and I value it deeply, but it must be the kind of friendship that is solid, it's ethical. And I can vouch for most of my colleagues, if not all, that we are all committed to this. Do we make mistakes? Please bear with us, we're human beings, we're fallible. But we don't intentionally make mistakes. If we've made a mistake, you must know it's a human mistake that we've made, and you can hold us accountable. So thank you so much, people of this community, for giving us hope that the project we started we launched on the 29th of August 2020 was not a mistake. It's something that the 2.4 million South Africans who gave us the mandate to start this political party are real. So I really wanted to really convey this to you. We appreciate you being here this evening and hope that we can give the rest of the time for you to engage us and give you an opportunity to interrogate us and expose us. So thank you so much for listening to us and giving us this opportunity.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you so very much, Mr. Mashava. You know, some of us, our parents who lived through the struggle, the ages of Bondate Mashava and Dr. Letlape, it's okay, Dr. Letlape, you did live through it. You are old. It's okay. They used to sing and say, Isoja into engalali, meaning a soldier never sleeps. And I'm thinking of myself, I can tell you now that as I'm looking at all of you, I'm not sure if I'm seeing all of you. With all of the medication that is in my body, in my system, I can't tell if I can see or I can't see. I feel a bit delirious, but the work that we've got to do is a very important work, and we are very committed to doing this work. May I allow members of the community to ask us questions? Please do not be afraid to ask any type of question. The only thing I ask is that we ask questions that plug up the depth of conviction and not the swearing type of questions. I've seen some people think that to be robust means you've got to be vulgar. And I don't think that that is the society we want to build. We want to build a society where we ask questions that plug up and deepen our convictions. And so all of the leaders that are here, I think, are ready, willing, and able to take your questions. And then we'll do a one-on-one Q&A, and then everybody will come and answer the question. Please tell us your name, where you reside, and the person you wish to pose your question to. We also are open to allowing you to take photographs and to doing one-on-ones if you would like to, but it can't be too long. We wanted to get you out of here by 7:30, and so we want to promise you that we are going to be able to do that. There is a roving mic. My colleagues will assist. May I see the first hand? Round of questions. Can I have more the community than ActionSA members? Can I ask that be the, okay, I see ma'am here. I see you there. I see you here, Lincoln. So I'll take it in that order. Michael? Do you need this microphone?
All right, I'm afraid our sound system technician has gone walkabout. Thank you, Mr. Sound System Man. Can you point me where this should go?
Hi, Alida Kosani, Parktown North. I wanted to ask, throughout everybody speaking, I haven't heard anything about education. And education is capital.
Can I ask your help to get it down to the gentleman in the green shirt there?
I would like to... Good day, good day. The name is Xolani Mema. also on Facebook, is Mema Pilile. I just wanted to appreciate firstly that a lot of the people that I work with here are people from the streets. Mumadziro, Motsepo, what's the name, Tando, the people that are here from the streets. And I want to appreciate ActionSA for realizing that there are people who are on the streets who need employment, who need to also be recognized. It's amazing. It's been touching me the whole time. You'll find me at the police station. I'm the car guard there, and they fetch them right there by the shelter, and it is amazing. The question is how far with competency vetting has ActionSA gone? Are there officers that are there to make sure that the competency of the people that are put in positions is at best? Thank you very much.
All right, thank you. Please can you bring the mic back? I see there's a lady here, and I'll come to you, Lincoln. There's a lady right there. That lady here.
Hi guys, my name is Jessica. Guys, we are struggling too much. And now as we are here, our hope is in Mr. Helen Mashaba that can help us. He's the only person that we are trusting in because we sleep in street. We can't be hungry for one day hungry. Or you know what is that? You understand what I'm trying to mean? We are getting hungry when we sleep in street. They come, the police, security say, we are not allowed to sleep here. What. Now we don't know where to sleep. As we are here, we are hoping for Helen Mashaba to help us. We are trusting on him. He's the only person that can help us in this time. We are hoping for Helen Mashaba. Thank you, guys.
Are you speaking?
Okay, thank you very much. Good evening, everybody. My name is Lincoln Machaba, Councillor for ActionSA in the city of Johannesburg. I feel I really had to ask this question on this particular platform because I don't think that it's not only me that might benefit from that answer, but I think many other people might as well benefit from the question. Now, my history in, following politics as a young man over 10, 12 years ago already now, is that I obviously started within the scope of an ANC, for instance, and the mentality in those type of environments has always been we hate a certain group of race, and those are our enemies all the way from apartheid, even up until 2011 when I voted for the first time. And that didn't work. We know the Youth League left, and then EFF in 2014 came up. They also have the same mentality of we just hate a particular race of people. We hate white people, to be particular. And then in 2016, so I've just been moving. It's just a choice assorted of political parties. That's my history, up until I find myself at ActionSA, where I really now feel at home. So I joined DA in 2016 because I see a billboard written black. And if you're white, you sort of felt that maybe, not everybody, but that you're a bit superior. So now we come to this type of a meeting today. From the moment I walk in here, up until we get to this point in this meeting, there is genuine equality. There's genuine unity. My question is, how did ActionSA find the perfect balance to truly be a party for all South Africans where we are truly equal and there isn't a sense of separateness and division? And I'd like to ask that question probably to Michael Beaumont, because there is no other party that is as united as freely as we are in this room, where I feel fully confident. Thank you.
Awesome, thank you. Okay, I'm going to the last one, and I'm going to take the responses. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, spokesperson.
I am the chair, thank you.
Okay, thank you. My name is Tsepo Mabusela. I'm the VD captain of Rosebank Primary, Ward 117. The question that I wanted to impose to the leadership is, what action are we willing to take based on IEC? I was part of the guys who were doing voters registration on November and also February. They were telling us that the system is offline, some kind of stuff like that. And then when the special vote they opened, I attempted to register all the people and disabled people on the system, but then still their status for where they're supposed to vote, it hasn't changed. So how are we trying to put any action just to account on that to resolve this matter, because we're going to be losing a lot of votes based on it's only most of the people actually, especially from the shelter or people surrounding in Rosebank, because others they are coming from different provinces, they are here for work and stuff like that. Now they're only going to vote for only one ballot paper, which is for the president, and they've attempted to register there, but the IEC officials they only tell them that they are offline, but they will do that manually, but it was never captured in the system. So what accountability are we willing as ActionSA to take towards the IEC? Thank you.
Okay, I'm going to give that to the national chair. Can I have some residents of this place to please ask questions, because we are here for you. Our members we can deal with at any given moment in time. May I have you, sir? And I'll have the lady over there. Please. I hope somebody's noting the questions, Michael. Thank you. Thank you, sir. You're welcome.
Hi, I'm Callum, Parkhurst resident. So I wanted to ask, let's be honest with ourselves, the majority of the problems in South Africa don't lie with myself or Michael. Yeah, they lie with the poor, previously disadvantaged members of South Africa. How is ActionSA over the next couple of election cycles going to prove to South Africa that their interests lie with the previously disadvantaged, or mainly lie with the previously disadvantaged?
So are you asking how it is that we're going to uplift people out of
Indeed, yes.
out of the effects of apartheid,
Exactly.
basically? Okay, thank you very much. That's a good question. I saw the lady in the corner, and then I'm going to take answers now, Marco, after this one.
Thanks. Good evening. Also a resident of Parkhurst. My name is Nicola. Could you unpack your strategy around coalitions a little bit more? You did mention your criteria for going into the multi-party charter being that that cohort would not form a coalition with the ANC. But beyond that, as a member of the MPC, if you were needing to form coalition governments with other parties who are outside of the MPC tent, can you just unpack your strategy a little bit more at a provincial and a national level? Thanks.
All right, thank you very much. So I'm going to take the answers, and I'm hoping that I'll have just one more round with questions from residents, because that's why we are here. I'm going to ask the national chair to take the question around the one you've just asked now, around coalitions in the MPC. I'm going to ask the president to take the question around education, which was an important question. I'm going to ask you to do that, President. And then I'm going to ask the non-racial the education. Okay, so Darren, you can take education. That's fantastic. And then, sir, did you have a question?
Hello, my name's George Whittle. I wanted to know how you would handle a serious problem that's in Parkhurst, namely the informal settlement down the road. How does one handle something to satisfy the residents who are worried about the crime upsurge, but also do it in a humane way and help the people who need help?
Rule of law issue. I'll have Olu take that one. And then can we deal with the non-racial question, Dr. Jose Letlape? Thank you very much, colleagues. Yeah, I think they from here, actually. Yeah.
All right, thank you. For what it's worth, Lorato, we've made a note of the questions. and we've divvied them up between us, so I'm sure we will get to everything indeed. There was a question asked earlier about the vetting of our candidates. I want to respond to that directly. We had a candidate selection policy that said, in order to be a candidate, you must either have a post-matric qualification or you must have relevant experience that is helpful in Parliament. And we've adopted that philosophy. We've required candidates to come forward and prove that they don't have a criminal record or any charges pending against them. We've required candidates to prove that they have the qualifications that they claim to have, because that's another epidemic in South Africa. But ultimately, what I can tell you right now is you never truly know if someone's heart is bad, because they can tell you all the right things. But what I can promise you now is this: there is no political party in South Africa that fires people as efficiently and quickly as ActionSA when they cross that ethical line. And I say that without any fear of contradiction. When we set up ActionSA, we wrote a constitution where we took the lessons from all of the other political parties from which people came to be leaders here. And we said, how do we make sure we get people out of our party and out of government if they do the wrong things? And in our constitution, we wrote a section called automatic termination of membership. What that means is if you do one of these unethical things, you're regarded to have resigned. We don't even have to fire you. You're gone. And no one has ever taken us to court to challenge us against that process, because Herman has a philosophy: bad people must leave the party and fight us from outside. And that's how we protect the integrity of our party, and that's how we protect the integrity of government when we're in government. And if anyone crosses that line, you'll see how decisive we are. I can guarantee that. The next point that I wanted to make was about the IEC. The IEC is an institution with some good people. There's some very good people in the IEC. It's wrong to suggest that everyone in the IEC has got an agenda. The problem is when you've got 24,000 voting stations, and literally 24,000, everyone, some of them will be run by people who do have an agenda. And that's why you've got to be vigilant. And I can tell you right now, ActionSA so far is monitoring 15,000 of those 23,000. And that number's growing as we prepare for this election. And one of the great advantages about the multi-party charter, in referencing your question from the side, is that we actually now have an agreement to monitor elections together. That in the north of KZN, if ActionSA doesn't have a party agent there, the IFP is going to monitor on behalf of all of us. And if they don't have a party agent here in Parkhurst, we're going to monitor for them. And that way we're going to protect the interests of change in this election across the country. And that's a very important feature of how we defend it, because ultimately the system of voting is set up to have the checks and balances, that party agents can protect our interests in this election. And finally, I think, on the question of the coalition strategy, the multi-party charter is a wonderful agreement because it actually goes beyond the part that I mentioned to you earlier, just about the ANC, where, for example, it says, we will not vote for any candidate to be a president or a premier unless they've undergone a lifestyle audit, and that has been publicized. It also says that the largest party is not automatically going to lead that government. So it has a number of principles that are very progressive and are going to be very helpful in setting up strong and stable coalition governments. And we've done a lot of learning on coalitions. We have been very well served by various institutions, including the Danish embassy, who have taken a number of party leaders to Denmark and Germany and places where coalitions have succeeded for decades. And there's been a huge amount of learning, particularly around how you set up a coalition agreement. Because in South Africa, a coalition agreement is 9 pages. It's so broad that anyone, quite frankly, could sign it, and therefore it's rendered meaningless. What does become interesting is that if you go to places like Germany and Denmark, their coalition agreements are 150 pages long. And they focus on the programmatic level intervention. So the coalition gets together and says, we want a bridge to be built here under our government. We want a highway to be built there. We want a railway line here, etc. And that's the kind of way we want to be moving, and that's the direction in which we are moving as a group of political parties. But on the question of other political parties outside of the Charter, we have said unequivocally not the ANC. We've said unequivocally not the EFF. There is no way you can fix the economy working with a party like the EFF. We're very clear on that. But as far as we are concerned, it requires ActionSA to be willing to work with a broad group of political parties outside of that grouping in order to deliver change. And if you look at the parties that we believe we could be working with right now, that should be in the multi-party charter, but are not in the multi-party charter because of how it was set up and how it was announced. Parties like Rise Mzansi, they should be there. I don't think they're going to get a lot of seats, but they should be there. You know, BOSA, Build One South Africa, I think they should be there. I think for what it's worth, the Patriotic Alliance should be with us as well. I've mentioned earlier the misgivings that we have, and rightly so. But the question is, you've got to build a majority outside of the ANC. And I can tell you from our time in government, I can assure you, you cannot fix South Africa from the opposition benches. Every day that the ANC continues to govern this country and its provinces is probably another 3 or 4 years of turnaround required from that one day in office. And that is why we have to be very serious about doing what is necessary to remove them and to replace them and to deliver a coalition that is far more stable and far more effective. And I do want to just end off with this final thing on coalition, because residents of Johannesburg would have every reason to be deeply depressed about the state of coalition, throughout Gauteng actually. But that, like all things in life, you go through a phase of, forming, storming, and norming. I mean, it's very clear that we've gone through the forming and storming, and we're entering a phase of norming, where political parties are going to learn that if you behave poorly in a coalition, and if you bring instability in a coalition, voters are going to punish you deeply and profoundly in the next election. And actually, it's the political parties that say, we will do what is right in the long-term interests of residents and not in our short-term political interests. Those are the political parties that will continue to grow in an environment of coalition. And our strategy is to make sure that we bring positives to coalition, we bring stability, we bring value, and at times, if we have to call out a coalition partner for doing the wrong thing, we will do so. It's something that South Africans sometimes feel uneasy about when you see coalition partners talking across one another publicly. But at the end of the day, people are mistaken to believe that the stability of single-party government has served South Africa. I mean, you cannot have 44% unemployment and say single-party rule has been good for South Africa, or that kind of stability is good for South Africa. Actually, when you have a coalition partner that says, I am not going to let you be corrupt because I'm in government with you and your corruption will become my corruption, that's the kind of accountability that becomes helpful. And it would be better if you see political parties that hold each other publicly accountable on those principles, rather than political parties who enter coalitions on the basis of you get this tender and I get that tender. One thing I can tell you for sure, when you look at how some of these political parties are funded in this election campaign, you can assume your ratepayer money in Johannesburg is funding their elections, absolutely without any question. Sorry, the last question I forgot. On the question of the informal settlement on the other side. So let me start with the obvious point. It's not going to be fixed under this existing government because the MMC in charge of public safety, the department that is responsible for dealing with illegal occupation of land, is an EFF MMC. I mean, just please imagine for one moment that the responsibility of upholding land ownership rights in the city of Johannesburg falls to the EFF. To make my point earlier about why we need to take back the city. The difficulty with things like an occupation like is going on the other side of the waste pick-it-up site is that the laws of this country, and particularly the jurisprudence, has been very unkind to government. In order to evict people, you must first do an audit, you must determine who would be rendered homeless by an eviction, and then you must provide temporary emergency accommodation to all of those people, whether they are South African citizens or not. And what we've learned is temporary emergency accommodation is not temporary, it's permanent. There are people in temporary emergency accommodation still from 1996 because the courts have not defined what temporary actually means. But the most important solution starts with protecting the land that is owned by government. When government owns land, it needs to ensure that there's a land use that protects that land. The biggest problem with that piece of land there, which was the old Pirates Club or whatever you would call it, is that no one's using it. The city of Johannesburg was meant to give a lease on that land to a sports club or a recreational facility or something, so that there are people who are looking after that land. It has lied empty for years now, which is why it's become an easy target for people who want to go and invade that land. But ultimately there is a solution. The city of Johannesburg is legally obliged to deal with that situation, and if they don't, we as a political party, we as a community, we as ratepayers associations can take the city to court and force their hands to deal with it. Because it is an issue of the rule of law, and the municipality has an obligation to deal with it.
Thank you so much, Michael. Good evening, everyone. My name is Darylene James. I'm Team Fix SA member for substance use. And the question that the lady asked earlier really pulled on my heartstrings. What are we saying about education? Allow me to reference the Children's Act 35 of 2005. Allow me to reference our children's rights, Bill of Rights. Allow me to reference the National Drug Master Plan. All these amazing pieces of legislation that is just laying there in the attic. I have yet to see it find expression on the streets and in our communities. I am looking around at our communities, and these days we're not sure if it's school holidays or if it's schooling time, because our children are disconnected from education. I believe that education really is, we have so many beautiful quotes and sayings that says education really is the most powerful, amazing tool that we can use to change the trajectory of this country. It really, really is. What are we saying about what is ActionSA saying about the many school dropouts? South Africa records the highest rate of school dropouts. Back in the day, I remember we had social workers where if a child was not connected to education, because it is that child's constitutional right to education. And if that child and learner is not connected to education, someone needs to be held accountable and responsible. Are we charging parents for gross neglect as per the Children's Act? No, we are not. Instead, we are seeing thousands of children sleeping under bridges. Children that could have contributed positively to changing the course of this country. What are we saying about education? We are saying that we have so many unskilled teachers in the classroom. As ActionSA, we are saying, let us bring back the Teachers' College. Let us ensure that the people that are responsible for educating and empowering our children are skilled teachers, are passionate about finding and knowing and notifying that parent to say, your child has not been in school for a week. Instead, that child just gets scrapped off the roll at school and just left to sleep under a bridge. Where are those teachers? We are saying, let us go and find them. We are saying, where is the inspector? During my time as a learner, there was an inspector that came and said, you know what, is this teacher actually fulfilling their mandate? Are they living up to their oath? Are they teaching? Where are those inspectors? As ActionSA, we are saying we are reintroducing those inspectors. We are saying as ActionSA, how do we expect these children to be passionate? How do we expect these children to find expression and to want to learn if you look at the state and infrastructure of our schools? Broken down walls. They don't have enough chairs. Who wants to learn in an environment that is not conducive for learning? Do we blame those children? Why is it today that we have, in my community, a wit school and a kleerling school? How are we bridging that gap, of that inequality gap? Who said that our children are only capable and able of learning to 30%? Our kids are a whole lot more than that. As ActionSA, we are saying we are focusing on ensuring that our children can read for meaning. We have children that are going into university that are unable to read in grade 10. And we are asking, why do we have such a high unemployment rate? Our children cannot even fill out an application form. We have neglected the most vulnerable of this country, our children and education. So as ActionSA, we are saying so much about education, the inspectors. We are saying, why is it that the unions have a more firmer hand in the Department of Education than what the government has? What are we saying about that? Action SA has a policy in place that addresses the involvement of, we're saying yes, it is important, but it can't be as if though those unions are placing their friends and doing all of that. We know what I'm speaking about. So ladies and gentlemen, ma'am, rest assured that we understand that the lack of education and the children roaming our streets contributes to the unit, the portfolio that I am representing, substance use disorder. If a child is not connected to education, if a child is not learning in the classroom, someone is teaching that child how to use drugs, someone is teaching that child how to cock a gun, how to hijack, and how to commit crime. Let us get our children back into a classroom where they can contribute to the betterment of our country. Thank you so much.
I guess for the whole evening, Lerato has had it in for me. I came late and she wants me to talk about how ActionSA has managed the issue of race. And I can only speak from my observation that the simple approach is we are one people. The reason there's no issue of race is because there's only one race, the human race. And that's the fundamental basis. And that when you look for leadership, you're looking for meritocracy, for somebody that can lead, not somebody that's going to come to the party to learn to lead. So what have you done? So it's the issue of the values that the party puts forward. There's no issue of majoritarianism or superiority. You know, people talk about multi-party coalitions, but when you look in Africa in particular, the reason Africa doesn't work is that the ruling parties are majorities. And majorities don't work. The majorities serve the people in power. It's when you have coalitions that nations work. Some of us forget that places like France, nobody has had a majority in France since the French Revolution. There are coalitions. When you go to the UK, when one party, either Labour or the Conservative, has a majority, they have a disastrous term. They destroy everything. When they don't have a majority, the UK progresses. Because they have to base things on what works. Because if you say, I've got the power, they remove you in the next city. And that's what needs to happen. So we have this fear of coalitions because of miseducation. A part of our education system has no critical thinking. And that's why we have the problems that we have. So the party believes in meritocracy and opportunity, not issues of separateness. Rebuilding communities, rebuilding families. So if you look at the leadership that Herman has done, has provided, that's the basis for not seeing race. And some things are things that happen because he was looking for somebody that was going to be his right-hand person in the city of Johannesburg. He was not looking at the tribe of the person. He was looking at the merits and the competence of the person. So the party is built on two people that came together. Because he as a leader looked as who can make a great team with me. Someone that had knowledge about the party, the DA, but could also work going forward. So it's those issues that have built that platform. And when I came into a party that represents the demography of South Africa. I'm part of a team that is not based on the past, that is based on what we can do going forward. It's a party that wants to build a future. So basically it's about investing in the future. That's why the issue of what tribe you come from doesn't come into question. It's what skills you bring, and how can you serve South Africa, and how can you make South Africa better. And basically, I mean, when you look lastly at the health policy, nobody has asked about health. If you see what Herman did in Johannesburg, that's how ActionSA operates. So it's about action. It's about coming together. It's about putting human first. He was castigated to say, I'm a mayor, but I can't use the resources to serve the rich. I have to start with the poor. So we start where the need is, and we restore human dignity. And that is why the party is not about the tribe you come from, because there's only one race, the human race.
Thank you so much, Khosi. I don't know why you are gunning for me. But family, colleagues, citizens, South Africans, we as ActionSA are saying, brick by brick, door by door, home by home, community by community, we are going to work as hard as we possibly can to make sure that the dreams and the aspirations we had in 1994 shall indeed be realized. We are a reality in this country. We are going nowhere. We are going to work very hard, and we are going to continue to work hard, irrespective of the obstacles that we face. We thank you so very much. I know that we are over time. We did say 7:30, but we thank you so much because the issues in our country are so vast, so big, and so massive. But we thank you for the ear that you have given us. We are a group of people who are really just committed to saving our country, to fixing our country, to getting things back on track. Because I think South Africans don't appreciate what it is to be living in exile or living away from your country, not having a choice. We want our children to live elsewhere by choice, not by necessity or force. And so we want this country to work for the betterment of the next generation. That is why we do this work. Thank you all so very much.